How you doing?
So you created a monster with your man fucking Tana. Say something, man.
All right, I was on mute. We're live.
All right, now I can hear you.
I said we're live.
I just heard you. How you doing? Good to see you.
Pretty good. Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm trying to keep the sexy down to a minimum. It's getting out of control over here.
Dude.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't do the intro. Um,
I know you slipping. I don't know what you're doing. The people deserve
yeah.
better.
uh, This is Ted Hicks with Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. Tonight's episode is Concentrate and Ask Again. Let me share out with a couple of people. Concentrate and Ask Again. Tonight's topics: Brian Flores, Canada, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, Spotify, and Ava DuVernay. And we follow it up with Kyrie Irving, and of course the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. So some of these items interject. Let it be. How you doing? Um, so let me share this on. Okay, boom, boom, and share it here, and then we can get into it. Okay, so we got the topics. First of all, how are you doing?
Can't complain. I could
Yeah,
complain, but I won't complain. People have worse
nobody
problems than me.
nobody likes a
But I
complainer.
need a new guitar, and I don't see why I can't get one. First
Of
world
course, you can
problems.
get one.
First world problems, right? So complaining. Someone around people are sitting here going, I can't believe I'm listening to this man complain about this. And that's where it's at. So I could complain, but I won't. And trust me, my problems are bigger than a guitar.
I was about to say,
But that's the
how
game,
much is a
right?
guitar?
Because it could always get worse. The guitar I won is $800.
Okay,
I decided to, I was saying on my pod a couple of days ago, I decided to do it the old fashioned way and save up for it versus just going down there and throwing money out. So, because I might change my mind on it. I almost bought a drum kit, changed my mind on it. But I'm not going to change my mind on the guitar. And I was like, if I do that, I can buy a really nice one and get the one I want.
okay. So
It's
I
still
say to
it's still a
you,
lot of money
co-
for someone who's not in a band.
concentrate, concentrate, and ask again. You know,
Go to the pawn shop. That's pretty good too.
the only thing that's holding you back from
I
getting
wanted
that
to get a
guitar
bright
is you.
orange one or a bright yellow one. Right here, my favorite song in the world. I've said this before. Is "Here Comes the Sun." Right.
Okay.
When I think of that song, I think of Happy Days. I think of like blue
Right.
skies, and I'm so associated to that song because it's been out forever, and I remember someone teaching me to sing it as a child, right? Um, I love songs and all that stuff, but this is just it's not that. It's just a song about an idea, right? About something getting better. It doesn't depend on
Mm-hmm.
another person like requiring someone to love you back or having your heart broken, right? It's just this nice little song that I I kind of really appreciate. So I was like, a bright music is bright and vibrant, and everybody. So and I've been looking at guitars, and they're all like dark colors. They're brown, or they're shot colors. They're like red. I was like, what about like a nice bright yellow one? Can't find one, so I'm going to have to go buy it or have it painted or made, and that's why it's so much. Trying to send a message to myself, trying to like set a banner. I'm a musician. I want a bright kind of like instrument, but I like you said, I could either look forever for it or buy an inferior one for like five, six, $700, or I could pay for what I want. But the idea of me at my level getting like a freaking $2,000 guitar just seems, even to me, it seems really ridiculous. Romanticized and all, pie in the sky and all, it just seems it. I should. That's something that should come way down the road. Anyway, that's a quick side jaunt of me and my musical journey.
Yeah, but when you
And
said
why am
Happy
I-
Days, I thought you were talking about Richie Cunningham, Potsy,
Oh,
Ralph Mouth, the
1 o'clock,
Fonz,
2 o'clock, 3 o'clock rock.
Rock. But I told you a while ago when
Yes.
the platform changed, you needed a guitar, and you could have been strumming away. There you go. At the start of every show, at the start of every stream, you're strumming away, and then you're talking about politics for 45 minutes straight. You would be the featured artist on this platform.
Yeah, but I would have to know what I'm doing. I've got to get these frets done because this
Yeah,
bottom.
but you've taught guitar.
I
You
haven't
taught
taught
guitar
guitar.
on this platform. You taught guitar.
I've inspired other people to play guitar. It's better.
Okay.
It's better said. Teaching. Hmm. So yeah, I keep it low. I was practicing my bar chords earlier. So what do we got on the menu, Teddy Ted?
What do we have on the agenda? We have on the agenda, and let's cut to the chase. First topic. Let's go. Brian Flores. The announcement came out today. The Steelers, the Rooney family, head coach, the only other head coach, black African American head coach outside of Lovie Smith, who was recently hired, decided to hire Brian Flores, who has the lawsuit against the NFL, against the Giants, the Dolphins, and I believe the
So
Denver
walk us through
Broncos.
this, if you don't mind me interviewing you as you interview me. Walk us through this. What is his beef with the Giants? Well, we know what his beef with the Dolphins is, but refresh us. It was about
Well, it's about
game,
their practices,
right?
hiring
And
practices. It's about
right.
discrimination. It's
I thought it
about
was more about offering him money to lose games. But what is his
well,
pickup with the other two teams?
but you got to understand, it's so, and just like Let It Be says, that hire feels like mitigation.
I
Um,
agree. I agree.
so it's a 58-page document, and if you ever
Right.
have time to read it, and it's in very small font, that it borderlines almost on a class action because it's more than just him. It
Really?
just chronicles the hiring practice over the years. Ever since the Rooney Rule was implemented, I think in 2003,
Right.
where
So there are 16 teams.
no,
How many teams are there?
it's between 30 and 32.
What did I say? 16
You said
teams?
16.
I'm sorry. What am I thinking about?
Mm,
I'm thinking about 16 weeks in the season. I'm sorry. Uh, there are
okay.
30 teams. I don't know what. Yeah. Well, how many weeks? Anyway, doesn't matter. I was wrong. of those 30 teams, you said
Mm-hmm.
one black coach.
Well,
right?
to be true, okay, so there's 32 teams, right?
Right.
Of that, I believe there were like three. Currently, the numbers are
Head coaches? Are,
head
are we
coaches.
talking all coaches?
No, we're talking totally head coach. Okay.
Okay.
Now, and the
What?
thing is,
Okay.
the anomaly is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin has been the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach for 15
For
years.
16 years. Right. Right.
Okay.
Right. But
So
but
he's
hasn't been
the
the only
outlier.
one for 15 years.
He's the outlier.
Right.
But
But
you have
no,
to
my
look.
argument is he hasn't been the only one. Some have come and gone, so they can argue. Well, we tried with these people who weren't as successful as Tomlin, and even as we trying, you know what I mean? I'm trying to like throw
Yeah,
their
but it's
argument.
different. It's different. It's different
Okay,
because you have to understand the culture of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, in
what's the culture?
their the culture, the environment of the Steelers, meaning they've been around for what 50, 60 years. They've had three coaches.
Right,
So everyone does like a roughly a 15, 20 year run.
right. Huh? Okay, right.
So that's the one team that's the outlier.
Okay,
So they're
right.
talking
So
about,
everyone else is moving coaches around, but there's
well,
never
there's a handful of teams that
in
aren't moving coaches around every year, but it's only a handful of the
right.
32.
And if they're, but the question then becomes, if they're churning the pot, why is there no, like, why don't you come or look, you see, but you see what I'm saying? If my team is 60 years old and we've only had three coaches, I can see why you'd go, all right, I can see
Kevin, how
them
you doing?
not having a black coach. But if my team is 6 years old and I get a new coach, at least two coaches a decade, and I've had 15 coaches, then I can ask you, well, you've had 15 coaches, right? And
Right.
since the Rooney Rule, you've had six. Why haven't you especially an interview? Why have you interviewed? So I see your point.
Well, it's not really my point. It's just laying
Oh, well,
out
then I see
the
my point.
argument. It's laying out the argument because now the NFL has hired Loretta Lynch
Right. Which
to
seems
thread the
like
needle to thread the needle on the NFL's behalf.
right. This is what look.
So
This is a cynical ploy, I think. Um, when famous people get accused of sexual assault, they hire female lady lawyers. Female lady lawyers, um, right? Because you know it's a tactic, right? So now you go, well, we got this race thing. You know who we hired? This famous black lady, and she would stand there in the court, being all a black lady and everything, saying how racism is ridiculous. Here with the what? That look at me, you know, you know that whole kind of thing. All the whole black team and they're becoming out them out as black, and people go, and that mitigates the thing a lot, right? It does. Uh,
so
and
here's
it's
one thing
what it's what
I want to
Cuomo did with his ladies Me Too people, right? A lot of those women got fired because they would use that thing to sort of back him up, and their pronouncements against the victim for him carried weight. So this is it does seem like a cynical ploy.
So a
Yeah, I
question
think money's
came
the
in, is
morality, and the
money,
art of it is keeping it, right?
so money is the morality.
Yeah, and the art is keeping it. Not no
You
matter how
know,
guilty you are, not pay out to sit on it. That is
ultimately
the Western
you
way.
have a league that has 70% of the players are African American.
Yeah, but 0% of the players are fucking awake. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, they shouldn't be allowed to do this to you. You have power, but you won't exercise, or you don't know you have it, or you can't organize yourself enough to do something about it, or you're fine the way the system is. But there's a reason why you kind of don't really. care to move on it.
So was today's hire to you a feel good moment?
No, I think that was also a cynical ploy. Um, it feels like a cynical ploy to me. Remember, there are 30 of these billionaires who own this team, right? So they're essentially a cartel. It's not like I have to find somebody to call, right? It's 30 people. Think of it as your high school class, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was about 30 people in the average American class, I'm assuming, right? So those are the only people you talk to about this topic, right? Sometimes you'll talk to the people who sit in the front of the class by the teacher's desk. Sometimes you may need to talk to people in the back of the class, closer to like the rear back door or the rear back window. But it's them. You don't have to deal with anybody else in the school or the city or the anything else. And I think they're like, look, this affects all of us, right? And maybe somebody was sympathetic to him, like maybe they did. They're like, then hire him. So now when the thing comes up, he goes, well, one, you have a job in the NFL, so how can they be racist if they hired you and you have a job, right? Uh, maybe they're not saying that you're bad. Maybe you just weren't good enough to be a head coach then, because they chose not to hire you, but they didn't think you were so shitty to fire you. Maybe this isn't about racism. Maybe you're not as good as you thought, and then plus you got the black. So there, I mean, those are two strikes. Meanwhile,
Two strikes
the Super
against
Bowl, you hire
Brian
all these
Flores.
black guys. That's another thing. The rap
No, whoa,
music
whoa,
is
whoa,
the,
whoa, whoa. Hold on. Two strikes against who?
no. I'm saying that's like as two strikes in baseball metaphor. Uh, as Brian Flores and his lawyers are sitting in court waiting for what they're going to say, I'm telling you, one strike right down the plate that people usually buy is, oh, you're saying we're racist, but wait, the person defending us is a black woman, right? So that's one straight down the pike, right? That's a strike, is what I'm saying. The second one is, well, they hired you. How can they be racist? You're hired. You're work. They giving you So that's another one. It's hard to defend against, right? Maybe my metaphor is wrong. My third thing would have been the Super Bowl with, well, we had all these black and we put them on our platform and we love
Oh,
rap
I think
music,
that's horrible. I think that's a
So
horrible.
no,
It's a horrible
no,
case.
but it's another thing in the chain of look at we always and we have all these racism. What us that thing, and they'll likely go. Don't bring up Colin Kaepernick because we settled with him. We gave him. We didn't admit guilt.
Okay,
That's part of what
but
American companies
hold
do.
on.
We
For
don't admit
this,
guilt.
for this instance, what do you really think?
Well, those three scenarios look to me like people are playing like the standard games to kind of like they'll end up settling with him without admitting guilt and keeping it moving and changing nothing. Like the
Okay.
guy from the Redskins who was like, I'm never going to change this name as long as I own it. Fuck you. Excuse my language. And now he had to change the name, but he gets a staying power. And his whole position on it was he should be removed. No, but he gets to keep
I
it moving.
definitely think Dan Snyder should be removed.
He gets to keep it moving, right? It's like Marge Shot. They eventually had to get rid of her, right?
Right. Right.
And this is that thing. But it happened. They generally keep the bad dudes in play, and the bad dudes keep doing the bad thing. Um, we'll see. We will see.
Um.
So I think that those are three very cynical moves in a arena that banned people from kneeling and got Colin Kaepernick the heck out of there, and just put window class stuff like what's that thing they put on the back of the helmets? Be together, race together, no stop racism, or that happy go lucky stuff. But when it comes to actually doing stuff, like the society is not about that, and I think they're caught up in that.
So I'm going to say this, and then we'll
Yep.
we'll go to the next topic. Um. As I said before, the Steelers are a unique organization, along with the Rooney family.
Yeah.
They operate differently.
You're right. Rooney's on the
And
Giants.
say it again.
The Rooney's on the Giants.
No, the Rooneys own the Steelers.
I'm sorry, the Steelers.
Yeah, the Rooneys own the
But who owns the
Steelers.
Giants?
Mara and Tish.
Oh, okay, right. Mine says
So
Right.
And the
Okay.
Giants used to be held up there. The Giants used to be held up there up until Tom Coughlin moving on.
Yeah. Well, every now and then
Uh,
you get knucklehead owners who run their kingdoms like
well,
lords
and that's the only
and
that's the other
right.
thing.
The
You
giant, the
got
classic sign
32
burner.
you got 32 billionaires that see their football teams as their personal toys.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of like you
It's a thing only
okay,
a
it's like
handful of
you
people have, right?
right. So imagine there's something unique that you have
Yeah.
and there's only 31 other owners that have what you have.
Right.
That's an elite group.
Yeah, agreed. Let it be says, I
So
think Colin K is a lightning rod that allows us to avoid the point. I thought the point was racism and kneeling. Um, and his though his stemmed out of societal racism, police brutality. Uh, the NAACP, the NFL, the NAACP, the NFL took the opposing view and shut it down, right? All the while claiming to be, you know, a friend of these movements, banning T-shirts and masks and all this stuff before they came around and realized, a lot of these people are from these communities and are black people. Meanwhile, in the NBA, they were like, "You fucking kneel, I dare you," and nobody in the NFL, the NBA kneeled. What was the difference?
what are you talking about? They were interlocking arms. They were wearing apparel. There's it was all written around the time of George Floyd. It was written across every parquet floor.
What was the kneeling policy during the anthem? That's when everybody was kneeling. What was the policy in the NBA?
Are you getting the NBA or are you getting the NFL
No, I'm talking. We're talking
misconstrued?
about the NBA and Stein now. But we're saying one guy knelt, and the NFL shut that down, and nobody knelt during in the NBA because the diff commissioner actually put his like his boot on the throat of it. So you got to do all this other
Nah,
stuff
I think you
afterwards.
got it wrong. I
You
think you
think
got it
so?
wrong. Because
Who knelt
yeah,
on the
because
anthem in the NBA?
Adam Silver, Adam Silver's
What did I say?
um
Stein was the last
yeah,
commissioner.
yeah.
So
You were thinking of David Stern.
right, Stein. You're
Yeah,
wrong.
Adam Silver is the commissioner, and
Right.
he's
Nobody knows
totally
on those
progressive.
anthems in the NBA.
He's totally progressive. He's totally progressive.
Okay.
You know.
Uh,
Hey, I want to talk. I mean, you can have the last word on this topic.
on the kneelings thing,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
I
kneeling.
I think it's not it's problematic, but it's not so problematic for the NFL. Um, I don't think people, not enough people care. Like I said, and they just want good PR, and they keep getting bad PR for like the last 15 years, really.
Let me tell you. You haven't studied the NFL closely enough. The ratings are through the roof.
Oh, no doubt.
People are back in the stadium. There's sellouts everywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
you can say that again. There are
it's
sellouts
they're
everywhere.
the, they're back. They're
Yeah,
back.
yeah, but
It's
this is a
the
pandemic. People got sick of staying in the house, right? What they wanted was these numbers without people's personal politics. Having an army of black people from these poor and destitute neighborhoods who managed to make good. You don't want them to say anything about their associations or behaviors. Like just because they get rich, don't mean they don't have poor neighbors still in these American ghettos, right? I mean, th- we live very different lives, essentially. And then when those lies bleed into your clean billionaire kind of football game, you have to, and who's you? I mean, you're a billionaire who owns a football team, and you've got a whole bunch of millionaires working for you as a hired, talent in this giant agency. The last thing you want from them is I guess to dictate what the political stance should be, right? And there was only one. Was the Carolinas guy? Was it? I think he's not Indian. I think he's uh,
You're talking about Shad Khan from
yes,
Jacksonville.
right. The Jaguars, right? He
Hmm.
had a very good so. And he thought that the league was handling this whole thing wrong, right? Yeah,
Well,
that
he has
guy,
a unique perspective.
right? Because he's not, and
Tony D, what's going on? Um, we'll move to the next topic.
yeah, yeah. Does that make sense though? I don't want to be rambling here on a Saturday.
I mean, some of it makes sense.
Some
I
of it,
just think that lawsuit is going to continue. The
yeah.
fact that the
I think
Steelers
it's just
hired
riding the
him
bite out of it.
doesn't change. It doesn't change a thing. That lawsuit is going to move forward, and they're going to say, okay, the Steelers are the outlier to this.
Right.
You know, he's
Uh,
employed. He's going to run a defense. He's going to continue to be a very good coach.
I think it's going to take a while for this to hit a court, and I think after his contract runs out, someone will hire him to be head coach, and it's going to make his whole argument null and void. I think
I,
I think they're going to take the wind out of his sails somehow by mitigating it. We'll just put him under contract for a couple of $1 million versus paying him, a couple of $1 million in court. We get to keep our name recognition. He wants to be a head coach, fine. And then we'll
so
just
I'm gonna
fire him
read this to
after
you.
3 years.
I'm gonna read this to you.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, what's up with Canada? So truck drivers and other members of the so-called Freedom Convoy blocked traffic at border crossings in response to Canadian and U.S. laws requiring truckers to be vaccinated. Members of the convoy appeared to conflate the vaccines with authoritarianism, a common belief among individuals opposed to vaccines and vaccine mandates. Convoy first blocked the Ambassador Bridge between Detroit and Ontario, prompting concerns about how this event will affect the supply chain and stability of the country. Of course,
Stability of the country.
right. So, Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, used a law which gave the government emergency powers to end blockades.
Yep.
Since then, the local government in Ontario encouraged protesters to amicably
Sorry.
disperse from their blockade. They will continue their
Encourage them.
protest at another. Hold on, just hold on. They will continue their protest at another designated area. So, on the whole, this is a fairly dramatic response. Well, a fairly dramatic event. Canada, the U.S. second largest trading partner, will now use the law to clear any other blockades and restore some sense of normalcy. The convoy,
Yeah. This is killing your
is
right to vote. And not
the
your right to
convoy
vote.
is important because it could encourage copycat events in the states. Ultimately, the takeaway is that people protesting were having a meaningful impact on the flow of free trade,
Yep.
prompting other truckers to find alternative routes and causing delays to make the political point. So we'll be watching this development and see what stems from it as it has ramifications for economies of North America. Okay. So
So you're telling me one bridge does all that? Here's your problem. People have a right to protest. People are always using these people are always using these laws uh, intended for other things to get at you to get their way, and that's I mean, it's not at this point. It's look at least authoritarian fucking regime just bring out the jackbooted thugs and beat your ass in the street, shoot you down, right? The veneer of democracy. They're protesting. They're unhappy. They have a right to protest, right? The idea that you want them to protest in a place over here, that's not a protest. This designated space in this mall parking lot, like Bloomberg used to do to people. Stick the cops on you, tell you can only walk down this side of the street around this block twice. Now disperse because you're in violation. You had your protest. We've just ended it. All this kind of sinister shit that should not be going on in a democracy. So that whole first when it happened, they tried to blame it on Americans, right? And I said on my show, show me the hotel receipts and the traveling across border and the immigration shit. Like show me all the people sneaking over, and then show me in with the influx of people, the restaurant take up, the hotel stays, all that stuff that comes with an influx of people. That's going to do this to this convoy. And if it wasn't an influx, show me the handful of people who are obviously brilliant spies, like Al Qaeda, where you just slip into your town and set up this giant thing, right? This had nothing to do with America. I'm sure we share the same networks, and you can see us on their TV. They have people of the same caliber. Excuse me, spitting peanuts out, right? Of the same caliber who will protest and don't want mass mandates. They see us doing it in America. They go, we're going to do it too. And all of a sudden, then the Canadians just go, look, it's the damn Americans, right? They shut down this bridge. Takes a lot. I mean, we're two super friendly security states, right? Not security states, but like secure, like Western states don't really need guards there. It's just rubber stamping, driving stuff over, like so. But then all of a sudden, they just shut that down in a pandemic where people aren't getting stuff in the first place. They had to open it. So instead of saying, I'm declaring this over because one, it's a pandemic and this is serious, and we get what you're saying, but shit has to go through, like they should have said, they blame it on Americans and yeah, it's just now they're putting people in jail over it. You know? It's only a democracy when you need it.
Is that your
All of a sudden you can't protest, you're not in a democracy anymore.
okay?
You know what I'm saying?
Is that your last word on it? Your
My
final
last
word?
word on it. That's my final word on it.
I want to show you a video.
Ooh, nice. I love videos.
Let's see. Let's see if it plays.
Is it me twerking at the Shiva?
No.
Kyrie's vaccination status became a topic of conversation at City Hall.
Livingston has more. Mayor Eric
Are you able to hear it or no?
It's going in and out.
Adams had to say about this.
Yeah, you guys know the rules. As an unvaccinated player, Kyrie Irving can't play in home games at Barclays Center or in the Garden, as was the case tonight as the Nets visited the Knicks. But a guy like Orlando Magic power forward Jonathan Isaacs, who is also unvaccinated, can. Earlier today on ESPN, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver called the rule confusing, saying he doesn't understand why visiting unvaccinated players are allowed to play here, while Kyrie Irving cannot. Later on, we heard from the man who can actually change the vaccine mandate, Mayor Eric Adams. He agreed that it doesn't make sense, but says he's having a tough time figuring out if and when the indoors mandate should be lifted.
I am really, really leery about sending the wrong message. Having the city closed down again keeps me up at night. The rule was put in place. To start changing it now, I think it would send mixed messages.
And as I said, Kyrie was out of tonight's game at MSG. I'll tell you how the rest of the Nets did in the Battle of the Boroughs.
Okay, Otis, thank you.
All right.
All right. I don't know if that came across
Never heard
clear
of
or
it.
not, but there's the Vax rule to keep Kyrie Irving out of playing home games. The New York City mayor, Eric Adams, says is unfair. He said it during a press conference that we just watched.
Yeah.
He says it's unfair and he's struggling with the situation, but he has a hard time with the idea of changing these city rules to accommodate one athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Adams was asked whether he would change the requirement after Commissioner Adam Silver said on ESPN that he didn't understand why the rules stopped Irving from playing home games and while unvaccinated players on visiting teams can come to New York and play. Of course, we know Kyrie Irving is the only unvaccinated player on the Knicks or the Nets and is not allowed to play in home games in the Barclays Center and or Madison Square Garden. About
Right.
97% of the NBA is fully vaccinated. We also know that, you know, Irving has maintained his opposition to getting vaccinated.
As his right
Um,
as an American.
um, Irving and other Nets have expressed hope that New York City requirements will change and
Oh.
he'll be allowed to play in home games at some point of the season. There's like 23 games left. Um, Irving, you know, he started the season separated from the Nets,
That's like 4 weeks.
but you know, however, the NBA saw that Omicron variant spreading through the league, and the Nets were hit particularly hard and agreed to allow Irving to return to play in road games.
Right.
What's your take?
Well, be consistent. If you say that this doesn't make any sense, and you, as you say that, is the only one who has the power to change it, why wouldn't you change it? Think about that. He's sitting here. It keeps me up at night. You can change it. You want to sleep
Right,
at
but
night?
then, but
Change it.
then he opens himself up for ridicule.
He's gonna be open for ridicule anyway. It's ridiculous how he phrased it. I don't like how it's working out, and it keeps me up at night. But I won't change it.
Right,
It doesn't make any sense.
it's like a political
It was
football.
put in place by the last mayor, who's not the mayor
Right.
anymore. You are now the mayor. You can change that. Why you what look, presidents come in and change what the last president did. Governors come in and
Hmm.
change what the last governors did. Mayors come in and change there's no consistency to our situation other than everybody stays too long, right?
But
And this is
that's
that.
usually from the
So there's
opposition
got to be
party.
something else. There's got to be another reason why he's not doing this.
That's usually they make these changes usually from the opposition party.
Not always. People have different uh, itineraries when they get into that seat, right?
Okay.
And this is just, but why wouldn't he change it? Or at least it keeps me up at night. He painted himself so bothered by the idea of it, but then he won't change it. He should have just said, "I think it's a good rule. I'm gonna keep it in place." Right? It stays in place. You know, but don't be with the people, but not. That's. I mean, I like Eric Adams. Like I said, I met him before. He was a heroin one. I was pro Eric Adams. He keeps swinging and missing, man. I think this one's a bad one. It doesn't make any sense.
So if you were the mayor, what would you do?
Here's the thing: it only really affects basketball players who play in New York proper. The football teams play in Jersey. Hockey teams play on Long Island, right? Excuse me.
This affects one player. One
Right.
player. That's it.
It's supposed to be a thing that affects everybody, but it really only affects basketball players. And other basketball players, it only really affects one guy. Change it. Right? It's not like people who come in have to they get to not be vaccinated and play. Yeah, change it.
So
But also
what you're saying is you would change it.
I say he should change it because it keeps him
I'm
up at night.
asking you what would you do?
Hold it. I'm telling you. I'm saying he should change it because it keeps him up at night. Now, what I would do, why are you going to change it for one guy? That's not the way the law should work. Sorry.
So do you see the reason why he's not
Yeah,
changing
get
it?
vaccinated or sit it out. It's not the way the law should work. That you change it for one guy. Or, he's not oppressed. He's making a personal decision to do so. And you got to stand by your personal decision, right? He's not sneaking around lying, carrying fake ID cards like some football players we know. But sometimes the price of personal integrity will cost you. This is that. Booyah! Thank you.
So what you're saying is if you were the mayor of New York City, you would not change it.
No,
No matter if
no,
you were part if the mayor, the previous mayor, the outgoing mayor was a Democrat or Republican, you would not change the rule.
no. Not for one player.
Okay. Let's go to the next
Someone that
topic.
was like, there's a law going around, and you brought it to like a honest body, and you discussed it. And this discussion was a real topic of why do we have a law that only affects one person? Who else down the line will it affect? Will it affect people in here? Maybe it's a bad law. Okay, I see your point. The law is stupid. We excuse me. I have the power to strike it. I'm gonna strike it. Okay, that makes sense. But to have the people cry about one guy and that one guy gets his way, no, I don't like the idea of that. I don't like the idea of that at all. I much prefer you stand on principle and pay a price because it shows people coming up behind you that, wow, that guy really believed in something and maybe it will affect him down the line versus I'm rich and I don't want to do it. Just like the tennis player who got kicked out of Australia, right?
Yeah.
He shouldn't have been allowed to play. He should not have been allowed to play. They almost killed Johnny Depp's dog because they tried to smuggle him into the place, right? They're super consistent about that. Just like uh what's that place? Thai will murder if you smuggling drugs. They're super consistent about this stuff. You know this going in, right? So yeah, you got to stand on something. You can't say that you stand on principle, but demand everybody save you or go easy on you
All right, next
or
topic I want to
terminate
talk
you.
about is Daniel Eck, the CEO of Spotify.
Yeah,
We talked about Joe. Well, you and I haven't per se talked about Joe Rogan. We talked about the power of Joe Rogan, but this was before these latest controversies. Okay. Um, Yesterday,
peanuts, y'all.
it was leaked that initially when the whole Joe Rogan and Spotify deal when it took place, everyone was thinking the deal was for I guess 4 years, $100 million.
Okay.
Now it's come out that I think it's for that same 4 years or 3.5 years for almost $200 million.
Okay.
So I can see without a doubt why Daniel Eck, the CEO, would let Ava DuVernay, Joni Mitchell,
Yeah.
Neil Young,
Yep.
other content creators,
Yep.
the Obamas, because they're supposedly looking for a new place to host the deal.
Yeah.
Um,
Obama's up.
he'll he'll let all of those creators walk out the door because Rogan is the cash cow with the built-in audience of, I don't know. Some say 11 million. Some say 14 million.
Yeah, but it's also deeper than that. You don't want to get into the habit of people running your business for you, right? It's good to take a stand now and say no.
Hmm. Well, he said he's not going anywhere.
Right,
Period.
right.
So he took the stand.
So all those other people can go. And then
So
eventually people
Ava
see, well, they
DuVernay's.
don't do anything when we leave. Well, why am I leaving Spotify? And then that will shut down the, you know what I mean? It's like kneeling. That'll
So
shut down the leaving.
one of the stories this week was Ava DuVernay's company Array has parted ways with Spotify and will
Okay.
no longer make podcasts for the audio giant.
Okay.
Array Last year, Array and Spotify announced a multi-year first look deal for Array to produce scripted and unscripted podcasts with Gimlet, the studio owned by Spotify. Here's the
Okay.
one catch. Um, Before I give out that catch, I'm going to say DuVernay's exit from Spotify comes as the streaming company has faced continued scrutiny over its marquee podcaster, Joe Rogan, who hosts the Spotify exclusive Joe Rogan Experience show. Guess what? Her company, Array,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't produced any podcast or shows released under that pack, and multi projects were in development. So I think that's a non-issue. Dr. G, thank you for the love, and glad to have
Yeah.
you here.
Uh,
So it's the
you gotta
cash
look.
cow. On one
Yeah,
hand, it's the cash cow, and on the other hand, it's the content creators. And I think it's an open and shut case.
it's an open and shut case.
It's an open and shut case.
How? How you mean?
The cash cow is never they're never going to say no to the cash cow. He can stand up there and say whatever he wants to say. They're out to this is we license him on this platform.
I think it's
He's
different.
licensed.
I think he's
He's
not going to be there forever. He's not part of right. He's going to be gone in 3 years. Right.
he's
I think it's more about
licensed. His
not
show, his entire library is licensed.
right. But for as long
So
as he's there, he's not there permanently or forever.
right. So he's not there. He's not their homegrown product.
Right.
So that's their out.
Right. But my point is, I think it's more about them not giving up control of their own personal business. So you can say no, and in 3 years, Joe Rogan will go someplace else, probably back to YouTube, and this whole thing dies down. And then you can say, "We stand by you and your freedom of expression here at Spotify. Come to us with your podcast."
So is this more about protecting podcasters with their, like you said, their freedom of expression, or is this
I think
about
that the
big
businessmen, yeah, and
business?
they can lay on the First Amendment for it because this all really looks like uh, a group of Democrats. You remember when Typical tried to stop rap music and heavy metal and D&D? Remember that in the 80s?
Hmm. Hmm.
This is more of that, right? You don't want to be on Spotify, Obama, bye, right? But as you exit, you have to sort of make a big show of it and raise money and go to this other place. But a lot of this is is opposing views that you normally wouldn't get when you had three networks 20 years ago. And now all the networks are trying to get you to believe one thing or another, whether it's Fox News or MSNBC. But meanwhile, in the hinterland, you have people like me who has a 6 day a week podcast, right? You,
Hmm.
right? We're not beholden to anybody. No one's paying us giant salaries, right? But we'll look at it differently through our own lens, right? From my childhood, from what my parents taught me, I see these things and I go, "This doesn't make any sense," right? Um, they're only doing this with people who think politically, because I think one of us may catch fire, right? And it looks like Joe Rogan has. He influences people about things, and they don't like that. So we'll see how it pans out.
I just think it's totally money. Not to disagree with you.
Hmm.
I just gonna say it's totally money. If they've kicked out 200 million, they are going to look for their return on investment. They're
Yeah,
not going to just give out $200 million and allow him to be released from a contract and go off somewhere and make his podcast available on his
yeah,
website.
but they'll happily let the $200 million go, not to destroy their business.
But he's not
You know what
destroying
I'm
their
saying?
business.
And that's my point. My point is, if this was
Your point?
thinking of the BBC, right? So the BBC sort of like just had this guy who passed away, and turns out that somebody at the BBC was, oh, we had to hear. Uh, the college football coach who was messing with the students, and they threw him in jail, and then it turns out that the coach knew about it, and then he died, and they took his statue down, and one of the assistant people at the thing knew about it, and they sent him to jail. Um, who was that? They took his statue down after all this broke, and the guy the guy who was the assistant coach went to jail for, like, molestation. Um,
You talking about Joe Paterno?
yeah, Joe Paterno, right? This it's that kind of thing. You see what I'm saying?
Not necessarily, but
All
I'm being
right.
truthful.
Um, no, I don't. All right. All right. I think I lost my train of thought on it. All right. Go ahead, Biz.
Um, I think we had a bonus topic with uh, what's your take on the state of Texas suing Meta, which is Facebook, the parent company of Facebook,
Right.
for claims that the social media platform violated their law with facial recognition technology. Facebook's facial recognition technology is no longer used by the platform, but the Lone Star State certainly doesn't care about that. The Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, is
Yeah.
pursuing hundreds of billions of dollars
Of
in
course they
civil
are.
penalties,
Greed is what it is.
25,000 for each of the 20 million plus Facebook users in Texas for
Yeah.
the platform's technology. So Paxton commented, according to Texas allegations, Facebook's facial recognition technology stored data about users' facial geometries, which are considered to be highly sensitive biometric identifiers by state law. Texas alleges that the platform stored and profited from biometric identifiers without user consent, even though Facebook has already discontinued the controversial technology. So, this isn't the first time that Facebook is in a legal drama over its
No.
biometric data. A
No.
class action lawsuit filed in Illinois
They have
required
an
the
army of
platform
lawyers.
to fork over $650 million in penalties for similar allegations.
Right.
Meta responded that the Texas allegations are without merit and we will defend ourselves vigorously.
Yep. That means we will send about 700 lawyers down there to keep this in the courts, and you filing paperwork for the next 900 years. Um, why do people rob banks? Isn't that what they said? That's where the money is. You sue Facebook for $100 trillion, and get a settlement of $3 billion or something, and you can spend it on colleges or high school football. It's Texas high school football.
That's your take?
That's my take.
Okay.
I mean, we see the European agencies doing this with these American tech conglomerates, suing them for all these violations and hoping to get settlements and all this money. Mm-mm.
And
No more.
that, my friend, what are we at? Are we at over an hour? You look behind you.
45 minutes, 20 seconds.
All right.
You got another
We're
15
gonna
minutes in
call it a
you?
wrap.
Let's see what you got. Nothing?
Hey,
All right. All right.
this is it. Hey, so best ways to find you? What's best ways to follow you? And for our audio listeners, because this is going to be converted into a podcast.
Tru Armor on YouTube and Arma, Karma, Arma on Twitch. Yeah. Please like and subscribe. I need the friends. I'm trying to get up to double digits in subscribers. uh,
Let it be.
thanks,
Thank
Let It
you.
Be.
Dr. G, thank you for coming through.
I hope
Tony
everyone's
D,
having a
thank you
good
for
weekend.
coming through. And this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. And we'll see you soon.